Hi, hello. Good evening. Good evening from Tel Aviv. Good morning in California, and good afternoon in on the East Coast of the States. Good evening to our viewers in Europe and our participants. So great to have everybody here. I'm Jay Shofet with the Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel. As usual, Sunday evenings in Israel, coming to you every couple of weeks for most of the year on these webinars. So glad everybody is joining. Please let us know you're here, where you're from in the chat. Got already 60 people already in here. And I know we have a lot of people signed up. So thank you, everybody, for your engagement and support. Um, oh, hello from Norway and DC and Maryland. Um, Dan Alone and I, our CEO, just got back. We got back a couple weeks ago from 2 weeks in the States and in Canada. Met many of you, some of our most important supporters in the New York area, in the Bay Area, in LA area, and in Toronto. And I'll be back in the fall, Dan probably as well. Looking to meet any and all of you from everywhere. It's really fills our batteries to come to the States, to North America, and feel the interest and engagement and appreciation of nature protection in Israel. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate seeing where all you are from. We have a great webinar tonight. We'll get going in a couple minutes as people join. We're already up to about 80 people here, and really looking forward to tonight. This webinar, had a preview of it earlier. Um, Tamara will be talking to us about the Dead Sea. Yam Melech, the one of the eight wonders of the world, an incredible, the lowest spot on the globe at the heart of the Syrian African Rift Valley, and a story which has so far been sad over the last couple decades, in particular, the last few years. It's drying up, sinkholes are being created. It's a very different place than it used to be a generation ago, the Dead Sea, much smaller. And a lot to talk about that tonight. Looking forward to it with Tamar. She's expanding her day job as the climate change expert and policy staff member in charge of everything we're doing in terms of climate change and SPNI, of course, which is a huge issue, and but now also taking on the Dead Sea for reasons that we will discuss. And we have a company-wide Zoom every other Sunday morning at 10 in the morning, and Tamara spoke very interestingly about what's going on with the Dead Sea. So happy to have her tonight as well. It's good timing. Hello, Tamara. Welcome, welcome. We're just gonna let the people come in a little bit more. Wow, we have people from Wales and Winnipeg and Chicago and this, I don't know, place called Paris, France. I've heard of that. Um, all over. Westport and Joburg and New Mexico and not from Santa Fe or Albuquerque. So very interesting. Happy to get going tonight and underway and learning about what is going on with this incredible natural wonder in Israel. One of the really, when you're visiting Israel, it's one of those things you should do it the first time because the landscape is positively lunar as you drive down to it, and then you're at this just incredible geological wonder. You can probably be starting a little with that in the background. Anyway, Dr. Tamara Lev. Um, I'm spacing out your other last name.
Love there, but that's fine.
Lev. Tamara Lev. Um, yes, and Tamara. So as I mentioned, you've been with you're director of climate change policy in SPNI. You've been with the Chevra how long?
4 years now?
4 years, 4 years, and you have been splitting time in Boston on and off. Yes. What have you been doing
Right.
there?
I just came back after teaching in Boston University for a couple of years, but I've been doing both teaching and SPNI work during the last 2 years. So,
Cool. What have you been teaching?
environmental law, environmental issues in the Middle East and Israel, and also some general governance and law of Israel.
Fascinating. So you are a lawyer and you come to SPNI from the Justice Ministry in Israel. And I guessed rightly, we just talked earlier, but I had guessed rightly when I learned that you were now taking on an additional role in SPNI as coordinating a all out what I think will be a mega project, if not a meta project for SPNI, and perhaps over the next several years, um, to really tackle this issue of saving the Dead Sea. And you come to that, as I rightly assume, because in your work at the Justice Ministry, you were involved in the concession or the franchise that the government grants to Israeli chemicals up till now, and that zikayon, as we call it in Hebrew, the concession to be able to mine and extract from the Dead Sea all the natural resources for its own profits, of course, paying taxes, I hope, as they should, in the country. But that legal issue now, it's I don't how long do they give the zikayon for, the concession for? I know it's up in 2030.
Right. So I'll be talking a little bit about that at the end of the talk. The thing is that the concession was given for 30 years. So it started 1999, the current one, and it's going to end in 2030, as you're saying. And right now, the ministry is the Ministry of Environmental Protection, the Ministry of Finance, everybody in the government are working about how the new concession, this new law that allow to exploit minerals from Dead Sea, how is it going to be designed? So this is a kind of a very important moment for being involved and understanding what's happening there.
It really is. I've been hearing about this a little bit in the background of our work for months now, but now I realize how what happens by the end of 2029 will really influence how the Dead Sea progresses over the next decades, whether we lose it or whether we revive it, and that'll be dependent on what we do between now and the end of 2029. So wow, good luck in that. Um, Give us why don't you introduce yourself, a little bit of your background, and let us know where you're coming from at the moment, and look forward to taking a lot of some questions at the end. To finish, 10, 15 minutes early, and we'll take questions. People, please try to write your questions in the Q&A feature. It's easier for us than in the chat, but if you have things to say in the chat, feel free to have a chat. Um, I'm just telling Nama, and I want to thank, by the way, Nama got a new employee of ours at SPNI who's doing this webinar kind of back office for the first time, together with David Amichai, who's always been in the back office. Thank you guys very much. And I see in the Q&A somebody wrote that they get an email telling them the webinar is over. That must be the wrong link or something, I assume, because we do have over 120 people here in the room. So. Um, anyway, welcome to everybody. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to our hardworking board members all over the world, and really looking forward to the talk tonight, tomorrow. So, bavakasha.
Okay, thanks, Jay, and thanks for having me, and thank you everybody that are joining. It's very I'm very happy to see that so many people are interested. As you all know, the days here are still pretty tough. The war is still on. The hostages are still very much waited for. But we have to continue to our work because the rest of the things are still going on. And as Jay just mentioned, for example, the Dead Sea concession is about to end. And this whole eastern part of of Israel, the eastern border of Israel from north through the Sea of Galilee and Jordan River all the way to the Dead Sea, are something that we are going to talk about tonight and understand a little bit what is the situation there and what SPNI is doing there. Yeah, so as you said, I've been in SPNI for 4 years. I actually came when I took a year off from working in the Ministry of Justice, where I was responsible for consulting and for legislation in environmental fields. So I was working under the general attorney for basically consulting the government and escorting regulation and legislation in the field of environment, mainly marine, maritime, and some more. And when I was doing this job, part of my job was to sit in this committee that was a governmental committee that was kind of thinking and preparing a report, a recommendation for how the state of Israel should prepare itself to the end of this concession, to the end of this of these 30 years in which מפעלי ים המלח, the Dead Sea factories, has the right to explore and to exploit all minerals from the Dead Sea. So I was sitting in this committee in 2018, I believe. We submitted our recommendations to the government, to the Ministry of Finance, who is responsible for that. And ever since, the government was supposed already to work on it, actually. But it took time, and then 2020 brought the COVID, and after COVID war. So only now, basically, the government is again working on that and is about to publish the new law. And that's why we thought it's an extremely important moment to make sure we are working and doing everything we have to do about that. So I'll now share, I think, the presentation. I'll go over to give some, some general information about the Dead Sea. So we are all on the same line. And then after that, we'll talk about what SPNI is doing there. I hope you can see. It's just Jay, tell me that you can see the presentation. It's okay? Oh,
Yes, yes, all good.
great. Um, so the Dead Sea, make sure that, okay. So some very general context to what we're talking about. Let me put this here. As you know, the Dead Sea is the lowest point on Earth, the lowest terrestrial point on Earth. It is located in a very unique geological place in the Syrian African Rift Valley at about 430 meters below sea level, which is a dynamic thing because, as we'll see, the Dead Sea uh, is actually the level is decreasing, which means actually that this level is going up, but it's still, I think, the lowest point. It is the border between Israel to Jordan, and Jordan, part of the border, of course, the border, part of the Jordan River that flows into the Dead Sea is part of it is the border, and within the Dead Sea, the border between the two countries goes exactly in the middle. So when we talk about the Dead Sea in the Israeli context, of course, the left part of the Dead Sea, and then the right side is Jordanian. It is a locked sea, or sometimes it's even called a lake, which means that the water are flowing into the Dead Sea from the Jordan River, and they don't go out. It's a landlocked with no outlet to the sea, and that is mostly responsible for the extreme salinity of the place. And the last point in the context is that we always have to remember that the Dead Sea is extremely unique, ecological and like view, or also religiously something that is very unique, a place in Israel, but it's also a very beneficial resource for the minerals. So it always kind of been in the last 100 years, maybe, balancing mineral extraction with tourism and environmental and ecosystem and ecological protection. So it's not only a natural resource that we are talking about. As we all know, it is extremely salty. As Jay said, in Hebrew, we actually call it Yam HaMelach. I mean, the Dead Sea, which is in Hebrew Yam HaMavet, is another name for it, but the common name is Yam HaMelach, which is the salty sea. And it indeed contains about 10 times of what seas and oceans would usually have. That is about 34% of salt. That is, as you can imagine, extremely salty. Probably many of you been there. It is rich in mineral, especially potassium. That is the major and most important one, and as well as magnesium and several others. It's considered very healthy to visit there, both for the minerals and for the sun rays that are in this so unique location are considered to be extremely healthy. And if you visited there, you probably know that you float in the water. Now, the main issue that is going to be kind of with us now is the issue of the water. The water that fill the Dead Sea are mainly from the Jordan River. Some, of course, also there is also water that comes from the rivers and rains, but much fewer. And most of the water were coming from the Jordan River. However, there are, since the 60s, both Israel and Jordan take most of the water, almost 90% of the water that used to flow from the Jordan River to the Dead Sea, almost 90% are taken for human usage, for agriculture. Jordan is very poor in water. It has a huge lack and scarcity of water. Israel used to need this water for agriculture. Today, the situation is a little bit different. So during the 60s, in Israel, the Gania Dam, which is just next to the Sea of Galilee, and then Tzemach Dam were built, and they took and are still taking most of the water from the Jordan River to the agriculture and to, in the past also for drinking water, to the Sea of Galilee and to the agriculture in the region. And in the Jordanian side, also King Talal Dam from 1970, and then another, the Peace Dam from 1987, further reduced the water flow. So the main issue when we're talking about saving the Dead Sea, as well as when we're talking about saving the Jordan River or rehabilitation of the Jordan River, is how do we get water? And that is what is majorly lacking. Aside the issue of the water, we have the mineral extraction industry. Now, the industry that, as we mentioned, there are several minerals that the Dead Sea is very rich of, and these extractions started even before the establishment of Israel. The factories were there from the 30s, actually. But then they were closed during the war, around the 1948 war, and were reopened in the early 50s by the states. So the Dead Sea Work was established as state company owned by the Israeli government, and the Arab Potash Company was established in Jordan. So all the time there are kind of, as I told you, the seas are located between Israel and Jordan, and there are factories that produce these minerals, the plants, both in Israel, and there are parallel ones in Jordan. So they're already there from the 50s, and they are unique in that it's one of the places that it's probably the easiest and cheapest and easiest technology to extract those minerals, because the solar evaporation basically does most of the work. The way that they extract the mineral, well, I'll maybe go back to this to show you the way that they extract the minerals, is that the plants are pumping water from the northern part of the sea that you see here, the northern basin, and they they spill it into the south part, which, as you can see, it's like pools. And indeed, these pools are serving the plants. If the plants are going to stop work tomorrow, there will be no pools, and this whole part of the southern part of the sea is going to dry out. So they pour the water into these pools, and then from there, which these pools are pretty shallow, there is a very strong evaporation, and they can basically just drag and take it's not that simple, but basically they take the minerals from there, and the salty part that is not needed stays there. And these factories, not only they generate billions in revenues and made their owners very, very rich, but they also major supporter of jobs in the region, which always put us in this conflict. It's not only about the economic that
Tamara, your internet's in and out.
those minerals
Tamara,
provide, but also
I can't see it. Okay.
thousands
Tamara,
of
hey, oh, there you are. Okay. Okay. Good. Back. Sorry. Sorry, everybody. Tamara, you're back.
yes, sorry, I don't know, something with my internet. Okay, we were here. I hope you heard me talking about the factory's work. And the thing is that the main result of both the fact that the dams and the fact that 90% of the waters that were flowing into the Dead Sea from the River Jordan are not flowing there, and the plants work, the combination of those two brought us to this situation in which the sea level has been dropping over 40 meters since 1930. Today, the sea level drops more than 1 meter every year. That's a huge, I mean, it's a huge decrease every year. And again, the cause of that is about 2/3 of the decline is the result of the dams, the fact that the water are not flowing in there, and then another about 30% of this decline is the result of the plant's work. So this is where we stand. By the way, this is true for both Israel and Jordan. In Israel, the extraction is a little bit more efficient, so that means also the responsibility for the damage is a little bigger, but its differences are not huge. So besides the water causing this decline in the sea level, of course, there are several environmental other impact. You probably heard about the sinkholes, which just started a couple of decades ago. And then today we have more than 6,000 sinkholes over around the Dead Sea, especially in the northern part of it. As you can see here, they are created in a second. So you have just the ground, and underneath the fact that the water level decline leaves a place for more sweet water to come to enter this undersurface area. And at a certain point, too much of this salty ground is just melting by the sweet water, and boom, you have this sinkhole. Beside the sinkhole, we have contamination because the plants have been working there for about 50 years, more than that even, and they're not only working in the sea, but all the area around it. We'll see in a second. The map has been under this industrial work, so there is contamination. There are places that has been developed and then just neglected. There are many industrial runoff there in the ground, and all kind of polluted areas. There is hydrology that has been altered and changed the whole way that rivers are flowing and the ecosystem around them, which also, of course, cause some habitat disruption. And so generally, if you go to the Dead Sea today, on one hand, you'll see some still magnificent views where even the sinkholes in some places are pretty amazing, but it will be generally looked very, very destroyed, really ruined. Especially, as I said, the northern part of the Dead Sea, big part of it are not accessed at all. In the southern part, where you saw the pools, this is also where the hotels are located, and so the place there is more kind of taken care of, and you could still visit there, but still would be very easy to see how the sea is just moving every year, and getting smaller and smaller. How is this organized legally in Israel? And we're talking about the Israeli half again. So the most important legal tool here is this dead law concession law that Jay also mentioned, which was written in 1961, and that governs most of the things that happens there are under this law, basically, or under this concession. This law was written after, in 1951, an Israeli state property law established that the natural resources are, including minerals, are state assets. So as they are state assets, the state is allowed to provide and give this concession, and this is what was done in 1961. And I remind you that this was still when these plants were state-owned companies, state-owned plants. It wasn't private as it is today. So this is when it was written. When the factories became private during the 90s, this didn't change. Almost, there was only one small change that was done, but generally the same law remained. Beside that, we do have the Israeli-Jordanian peace treaty that is setting the rules about the relationship there. Israel provides a big amount of water to Jordan every year from the River Jordan or Sea of Galilee. So this area is governed by the peace treaty as well as the Dead Sea. And there are also environmental regulation, general environmental regulation that apply on this area, but unfortunately are very, very weakly enforced. So what we can see here, I mentioned before that one of the problems that we have is that the plants are extracting minerals from the sea. As I said, they are pumping water from the northern part, from the northern basin. They spill them, throw them here in these pools, but the concession allows them to work around a huge part, also land, the terrestrial part. So you can see here the blue line. The blue line represent the concession border, which means the law allows the factories to work, to do whatever they want. The law is very, very, very broad, to do whatever they need, to do whatever they want in order to extract the mineral and then produce whatever product they produce with them and then sell them. So when we look at what the factories did, we are actually looking at much broader scope of land than just the sea itself. Okay, so this is the situation. I kind of guess that many of you could know this, and I will now talk about what we're doing with it and what we hope to do in the future and in the coming years, which also, of course, will require a lot of resources. But let me go through some of the things. So as I mentioned, the original or the major law that governs the major tool that governs everything that happened there is this law, this concession law, and the concession is about to end. And for this reason, the ministries and the government are about to publish a new law. And we recognize that this point of time, this new law is going to be extremely important to bring everything we can into it. Because after this is going to be approved, we're going to have something that will be with us for 20 or 30 years, and it will be very difficult to make any changes. So this is an important point of time. The law is supposed to be published any day. They've been saying that for a couple of months, so we're not sure, but now they're saying it's like any day. And when it is published, and this is the Knesset here that you can see in this the building here, and this is why it's here. We will have to go to the Knesset, to the parliament, and fight over this law. Right now, from what we see that the law is going to be very weak and is not going to be able to fix the harms that were done. It's going to be very, very much in favor of the factories. So we are very worried. The Ministry of Environmental Protection that is trying to push forward much more environmental friendly and do whatever they can. Unfortunately, they are very weak right now. And the law is going to be governed and ruled and decided majorly by the Ministry of Finance. So one thing that we're doing and that we're gonna do is fight for this fight in the parliament for about this law and make sure or try to do our best in order to have it better. But while we were working on that, we understood that one important thing that we must bring to the table when we're going to discuss this law, because again, this is the moment for discussion, we must bring our view that the Dead Sea is not some isolated lake somewhere. It is connected to a very, very important ecosystem, historically, religiously, ecologically, whatever you mentioned, touristically. The Jordan River. The Jordan River and the Dead Sea are part of the same ecosystem, the whole eastern basin of Israel. And we have to look at it as such. We have to make everybody understand that there is a connection between the two and that we have to work to stabilize the Dead Sea and to restore the Dead Sea while restoring the Jordan River, which is the origin of the Dead Sea. And we just cannot continue watching the separation between the two. Because right now, decision makers are looking at the Jordan River and the Dead Sea as two completely different topics. So in order to convince and present this agenda that the whole region, this whole thing is one ecosystem, we decided about to kind of present this umbrella project. And this umbrella project is actually gathering and looking at many projects that are already taking place in SPNI. They're not new, but they're actually, all of them are somehow connected to this region, to the Jordan River or the Dead Sea. And we want to show them and develop them and many more and many others to show how this whole region is actually one region and how we could restore it and kind of bring it back to the life that it used to have. And it could be really unbelievably an amazing place again. We talk about the Dead Sea, and I'm not going to talk a lot about the Jordan River, but I'm just going to say that in the Jordan River, there are many parts that are also extremely polluted, neglected, dried out. So the Jordan River is not in a better condition than the Dead Sea, which is part of the reason why we have to work on them also together. So few of the picture here representing that SPNI is already doing. You can see here at the picture, the top middle, the Sea of Galilee at the end of the kind of the somewhere there. There is a team in SPNI that is working on river rehabilitation. And as part of that, they're also working in the last few years about a project that would free as much water to the nature as possible. As I said, much of the water is going to agriculture and has been going to agriculture ever since Israel was established. But today we have desalination. The water situation has changed, and this group is trying to promote the idea of freeing more water to nature. These water are supposed to go back to the Sea of Galilee, to the Kinneret, and from there to the Jordan River, and all the way down to the Dead Sea. It's very complicated. There are many challenges there, but starting to understand the agenda and providing the solutions and bringing up the idea is one thing that we're doing, and hopefully some of it will be able to be implemented. Things are being even harder in year like this year, and that is with extreme drought and with climate change, it's not going to be easier, but it's still possible. It's possible with the right planning, of course. What we see at the top right here is another really amazing thing that was done recently in the last year, and that is a group from SPNI went to sail in Jordan River and to go over most of the parts from north to south in the Jordan River. Now it may sound strange, but actually this was not done in the last 100 years. Nobody sailed in the Jordan River from north to south. As I said, there are places that are dry. There are places that are extremely polluted by sewage, like real sewage that are black. There are places that are so neglected and so much vegetation that it's impossible to go through. So this new sale that was done, and of course documented, and they took a lot of samples for research and for analysis. That is now providing a huge amount of data that we start to work with. We can assist Jordan, the Jordanian neighbor, in some of the data. We can start analyzing where can we restore, what can we do, where the pollution is something that we could treat. So that is kind of a treasure of information and data that we're now analyzing and working with. At the top bottom, you see here this nice nature rewilded pool. You may have seen it in the past. This is part of our startup nature. I'm sorry, there is a spelling mistake there. Startup nature is a restoration project that has been one of the flag project in SPNI for restoring and rewilding aquatic habitat. And this is one of them. Places that used to be fish ponds and are already neglected and not functioning as fish pond are now being given back to nature, rewilded and restored. And there are around Israel, but some of them are just next to the Jordan River. For example, this one in Faropin, which means this area is gonna have some free water that are going to flow into the Jordan River. So that is also part of rehabilitation, some of the areas in the Jordan River. Then in the middle, down in the middle, we see some soldiers that are working. And indeed, this whole area of the Jordan River and the Dead Sea, as I said, is the border with Jordan, and the northern part of the Dead Sea is also Palestinian. So we must, in order to cooperate with the neighbors and in order to work there, we have to have a very strong cooperation with the army. We have the NDF, Nature Defense Force, which is a team that is working also doing unbelievable projects with the army, with the Israeli army, with the IDF, working with soldiers, and also getting the permissions and cooperating with the army for doing all kind of research or restoration. This area of the Pink Pool, for example, last time that I visited there was closed because it's very close to the border, and when things are not quiet politically, then it is closed. But close relationship that we have with the army allows us to work to continue the project there. And lastly, on the bottom right, this is a picture viewing from the Engedi Engedi Field School, which is one of the most beautiful, I think, field school. And they are, of course, they live there, so they are part of our public and education work. And there is many other places around the like in the north also, but this one I think is very unique, that is connected to the Dead Sea. They are working on all kind of educational project and maybe festival that are going to take place about the Dead Sea to raise the awareness and to connect the public to the Dead Sea, to this region. So all these projects are kind of under the different parts of the SPNI, but they're all actually working towards the same idea and the same agenda of restoring the Dead Sea and Jordan River. One more thing that I would mention before, maybe I'll see if there are, I'll stop for a second to hear some questions, is that as you can imagine, it's a huge area, and there are so many players that are part of this, so many stakeholders from municipalities and local communities, and of course, Israeli Palestinians and Jordanian, um, economic, agriculture, tourists, so many interests and so many players. This requires a lot of cooperations. So one thing that we added to all that under this umbrella project is really creating and maintaining those cooperation. We have a very couple of like strategic cooperation that are very important. One is with the IDF, as I said, with the army and the security bodies. And the other one is with another environmental organization. You may have heard of EcoPeace, which are working for years around this region exactly. And they have also offices in Jordan, in Amman, and in Ramallah, in the Palestinian Authority. So that brings us another kind of strength from this side. We've been working with municipalities, of course, and local communities. And we also joined and are taking part in several academic collaboration that tries to promote research and more and kind of provide and create academic basis for a lot of what we want to suggest, the policy that we want to suggest, which is basically allowing more water, finding the resources for more water, to bring more life to the Jordan River, and those water to flow into the Dead Sea. It's not going to be like it used to be, the amount of water, but we don't need this amount. If we could have about quarter of this amount of water that used to flow from the Jordan River to the Dead Sea, that would already make a huge change in this whole region. So this is currently where we are aiming. Okay, I think I'll stop here to hear some questions. If there are, I can.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let me just take a couple of these questions in the Q&A. I think there's some more in the chat, but you can think about the ecological issues. I'll just mention the minerals extracted from the Dead Sea. Tamara mentioned magnesium, bromide, potassium. I think they're the main ones. There's also some lithium. There's salt, of course. Magnesium is a health product and it's used in industrial uses. One of them is a
Agriculture.
fertilizer, bromide, and the other one is I think it's also industrial applications.
Yeah,
Um,
it's mainly for agriculture and industrial use, as you said. Lithium is so far still not being extracted, but people are talking about the possibility that it will be.
okay. Um, in terms about I thought there'd be questions about this, and I was going to mention to you to mention the various canals that have been proposed. As far as I understand, somebody asked about the water flowing from Eilat to the Dead Sea. As far as I understand, water's never flowed from Eilat to the Dead Sea until the Red Dead Canal project, which I understand is sort of still in a pilot phase. I don't think we hold much hope about that. There's also the Med Dead Canal has been talked about for decades now. Where do any of those projects stand tomorrow?
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me talk a couple of minutes about that. So yeah, so the big question is, where are these water going to come from? And indeed, for many years, I put it again, the map, so we can have the context, but for many years, the main solution that was kind of offered, suggested, was to bring water from the south of Israel, from the Red Sea. As you remember, we can't see the Red Sea here because it's too south next to Elat, to bring water from the Red Sea and then take them all the way here up to the Dead Sea. The idea was not actually to bring all the water, but to make kind of a canal. And the idea was to make a desalination plant next to Elad in Aqaba, in the Jordanian side. This plant would take water from the Red Sea, desalinate them, and send the water to Jordan, and what is left, which is kind of a salty water, would be taken to the Dead Sea. That was the Red Dead Canal that you mentioned, and the government discussed this for more than 20 years. There were great works, huge works that were made to check how is it going to impact the Dead Sea, what is the economic feasibility of that. After more than 20 years, basically, I can say today that the idea is dead, just as the Dead Sea. I don't think anybody is still promoting it. It is a huge economic project with a lot of problem. Ecologically, doesn't make any sense. And we also have to remember that the Red Sea is an extremely unique natural resource today. So currently, this idea is not being promoted. What are the solutions that are being promoted today? So the next major idea is to bring water from the Mediterranean to the Dead Sea. So that is the Med Dead. So from the west to the east, it is a shorter way, but it's also very difficult because, as you probably know, there are mountains on the way. When you go from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, you have to cross a mountain. So there are ideas to come from the north, and there are several alternatives that the Ministry of Environmental Protection kind of put on the table a couple of years ago, and they're examining them. They're all pretty difficult to implement, very expensive. They will never bring enough water for stabilizing the Dead Sea, but they probably may provide some of it, maybe about half of the amount that is needed. We think that some of them may be implemented. Our major concern here is that, as I said, the government look at the Dead Sea and the Jordan River as two different things. So what their idea is to bring water from the Mediterranean to the Dead Sea. We want to consider a solution that would take water to the Jordan River, and that this water will flow into the Dead Sea, and then kind of revive the whole ecosystem. So this is one. This is a second idea, which is today, I think, the major suggestion that is being checked. But again, I cannot say that if it's going to be promoted because it's not clear where the money is going to come from if
But
we are
just to be,
not connecting it.
Tamara, excuse me, just to be clear though, the Med Dead Canal would dump seawater into the Dead Sea, correct? And there's worry about the ecology. Whereas the concept SPNI has been promoting, and in fact, the Israeli Nature and Parks Authority has agreed to in principle, which is to take desalinated seawater and put it back into the Kinneret or into the Jordan above the Kinneret in our mind, and then
So
be able to open the Kinneret,
So yeah, the
right?
idea to bring water from the Dead Sea is to bring salty water, yes, because to desalinate is very expensive. And this is one of the problem. I think we can agree about a small amount that would be salty water, but not all of it.
Right.
And also we think that if these salty water are going to go through rivers, they're going to be cleaned, and they're going to get to the Dead Sea in a better situation. Um, so yes, we understand today that we're going to need fewer regions of water. There is no way that we could bring a huge amount of salty water. It is clear that we cannot only use only desalinated water because it's too expensive, and it also has the ecological impact. So we'll probably have to have some kind of mixed. But this is the major idea that is being promoted today, and we are working to make sure that this is promoted, it's going to be implemented in the best way, and in the way that would be both ecologically right and and consider the whole region and not just one problem while still creating others. But yes, this is also a question. It's also not clear exactly how these water are going to impact the river and the sea, because most
Right.
of the studies that were made about the Red Sea. So that's why it's important for us also to promote some researches and studies to check this and to understand it better.
Hmm.
Our group that we have been established to work on that has ecologists that is working on kind of establishing in an ecological understanding and ecological vision, hydrologist that is working on the hydrology side, myself on the policy side, and the cooperation side with the Army. I will just mention that another option that is being kind of checked is to use reused water, like reused water, treated water. In the past, we were against that. It's of course not the best quality of water, but today we can treat water good enough, and they're going to be much better than the water that we can see today in the Jordan River. So
Cool. I'll just clarify something. It was in the chat. The photograph you had of people rowing a rowboat in the Jordan, that seemed like a family outing in the northern Jordan River. And in fact, the survey project that Tamara talked about, Lewis and Clark, like the first time in over 100 years, was, as I recall, from the summer before October 7th. The Israeli Defense Forces, together with cooperation from Jordan, they paddled canoes and kayaks down the Jordan. And the sad thing that was reported to me by our colleague Guy Sally was that, I mean, the headline in my mind was that the Jordan River is not navigable by kayak. I mean, you said it more boldly. It's just dried out in places. And this was 2 years ago, before the biggest drought on record in Israel since we've been recording rainfall this past
yeah,
winter.
they,
So,
they actually had another sale a few months ago. So
oh, they did have one few months. Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, cool. So we know even more. So I'm sure it's worse. So we have data now from over, a couple of years apart. That's interesting. What is the Peter Geffen asks, and this is a good question. He'd like to understand some of the ecological damage that we're worried about. It's already happening. What could happen? What is the ecology there?
ecology. So when we talk about the whole region, the Jordan and the Dead Sea, of course, there are several ecological kind of systems which are connected. The Dead Sea itself, ecologically, um, has been. I'm trying to think about how to. It's a very unique area that used to be. Um, I'm trying to think what to add, because I think I've talked about this. The major damage to the ecology is caused by the drop off of the sea level, which changes the whole region of that. The sinkholes, the rivers they actually need to find their new routes. And some of the animals survive that, many are not surviving. So those are the major kind of challenges and major impact on the ecology. Some people believe that the sinkholes are very beautiful ecology, new ecosystem, but those are the damages to this region, and they can be stopped only if we get more water into the Dead Sea. So I'm not sure about more ecology there.
Right.
Um,
I just want to, emphasize what you had mentioned in your talk, which is that if you haven't been to the Dead Sea recently, it's pretty shockingly weird and terrible. I mean, those sinkholes, they can open up very suddenly. The roads constantly have to be changed, and insurance companies don't let tourists get anywhere near so many of those places on the northern part of the Dead Sea there, because it's just too dangerous. So that
yeah,
that is a that is ecological damage, and it's such a beautiful place that it's I would say it's ecological slash but geological damage.
right. So that's there. And when we talk about the Jordan River, this is an area with unique ecological
Right.
importance, and it's part of the migratory flyway, and it has some unique species that live there in the water and around it. So over there, and again, I'm not ecologist, and I'm not gonna mention the all the unique ecosystem there, but the Jordan is definitely a place that can be restored. And when we restore area like the Farupin pool here, we immediately see how the species are coming back, the birds are coming back, and they're under huge pressure because there are no places for them left. So we have kind of these two ecosystems. One is extremely important majorly for the bird fly, but for many other species, and then the Dead Sea itself, which is currently like a ruined area.
Okay. It's interesting. A couple questions relate to it. I want to expand on it about the transnational aspect of the Jordan. And I mean, do we know what Jordan's plans are? And I mean, working with EcoPeace is great. And I know, they're a tripartite organization that also works out of Jordan. I mean, and but still, what if we do everything right and they just double down on their extraction? What will we have, for example? Or they need more water and we can't supply them enough. And I know we're trying to supply them desalinated water, but what if they decide to pump more water out of the Jordan at the same time we decide to put more water in?
Well, actually, the cooperation with Jordan, definitely when the days are quiet and calm, but even today is, I would even say that the least of our problem because the Jordanian needs the water and they want to see clean water more than us. They are in a very difficult situation of lacking of water. They need desalinated water. We sell them, but in order for us to sell them water, we have to have enough water in-house. And the fact that we would have more water is just going to be, I mean, we're kind of sharing the interest here. We're not in a conflict of interest. The place that we do have some conflict, and people are saying that this is a challenge, is that Jordan can't see now water going into the river while they need water for drinking. We cannot kind of imagine that we'll kind of allow water to flow into the Jordan River without communicating that with Jordan because they need this water for drinking. But that doesn't mean that we cannot work together because if, for example, we provide water to Jordan, if we could manage to have this water flow from the Sea of Galilee to the Jordan River, make sure that they're clean. Jordan can have this clean water from the Jordan River and they don't have to take it from the Sea of Galilee. So we can revive the Jordan River. We can manage this in a way that some of the water will get into the Dead Sea. Some of it will be on the way, will just flow in the Jordan River. And some will be probably giving up in the north. But Jordan is extremely collaborative when it can. And from the experience from EcoPeace and from Guy, from our experience, we've been seeing usually project where Israel starts, demonstrate, Jordan follows, and the collaboration are good. With
Cool.
the Palestinian Authority is more difficult because of the political situation and because of their situation, which is even worse. They're not able to clean the water, to treat water and stuff. But there are solutions, and the Jordanian are definitely a partner. The challenges are how much it's going to cost and how can we bring everybody around the table and which interest we're going to prefer, economic, industrial, ecologic.
And probably there's some dependency on the general overall political situation, which shall not be discussed by us.
Of course,
Yes.
some of you may know that there was an agreement that was already almost signed before the war started, that the United Emirates were also part of, like a green-blue deal, which involved water and energy, but it all stopped after October 7th. So definitely it is much more difficult to work in these times, and we hope it's going to get better. I'm gonna see if I can see more chat, more
Um,
questions.
Um, have you a research institute called Masada? Have you heard of them? Established a couple of years ago. And the Dead Sea Guardians, a couple of people have asked about. Are they active? Are we cooperating?
So the Dead Sea Guardians, yes, we know them. We collaborate. We're part of, again, several groups. We really hope and try to collaborate with everybody because there are many players, but most of them are not strong as SPNI and cannot lead. So we're trying to kind of be part of it. So definitely we work with Guardian of the Dead Sea. They did great public work, so we hope they will be very helpful in bringing the public into any campaign that we would maybe need. The other one, Masada, I didn't recognize the name. I mean, I
Okay.
know that, but not that group.
Well, we are at the top of the hour. I want to respect everybody's time. There's many unanswered questions. You can contact me directly, the usual email, and I can forward them on to tomorrow for anybody who didn't get their question answered. Apologize in advance, but a lot of interest, a lot of people on tonight. Still 120 people, and we're thrilled everybody's here. Thank you very, very much, Tamara. Thank you, Naama, um, behind the scenes, and we will be here again soon. Stay tuned for our publicity. And tomorrow we'll have you back soon as well. Update.
Right.
Let's get an
I
update
just,
on this in about 6 months.
right. I just want to say thank you. And also, really, if you have any ideas or any questions, you're welcome to write to Jay, and he's gonna put it with me. So,
Absolutely. And if you want to, support our efforts in any way to support the Dead Sea and to restore it, we'll be raising funds, but we're also looking for, I know a lot of you are watching from Israel, and there's lots of ways to be involved. So be in touch. Thank you very much. Lila Tov, Soraim Tovim, Erev Tov. We'll be in touch. Bye bye.
right. Thank you.
Bye bye.